much for being on this journey with me. I feel the love, and I send it back to you. Bye.
Now with Ellen DeGeneres with another emotional apology to her staff in a video conference call after allegations of her show being a toxic work environment made headlines. This as 3 top producers, all accused of sexual misconduct, are ousted from the show. Kaylee Hartung has the details. Good morning, Kaylee.
She told us to be kind, but behind the camera, she built an empire on fear. For nearly 2 decades, Ellen DeGeneres was America's daytime darling, the smiling, dancing icon who gave away cars, cash, and hugs. She was the face of generosity, the champion of compassion, the woman who made "be kind to one another" a national motto. But what if it was all a performance? What if the real Ellen wasn't kind at all, but cold, calculated, and cruel? What started as whispers online quickly exploded into one of the biggest betrayals in pop culture history. Accusations of racism, staffers silenced, careers ruined, and then, quietly, she disappeared. After the election of Donald Trump, she began pulling away. After the truth surfaced, she left America entirely. So what was Ellen DeGeneres running from, and why did the world let her get away with it for so long? Before the controversy, before the headlines, before the fall, there was a girl from Metairie, Louisiana, just trying to make people laugh. Ellen DeGeneres didn't grow up in Hollywood privilege. She waited tables, painted houses, sold vacuum cleaners, whatever paid the bills. But every night, she'd sneak into coffee shops and tiny clubs, grabbing 5 minutes on stage to tell jokes. No spotlight, no applause, just strangers, cheap beer, and raw determination. She wasn't like the other comics. Her style was quiet, observational, clean. And in a scene dominated by loud, often crude male comedians, Ellen's charm felt different, disarming, human. Then came the moment that changed everything. 1986. She landed a spot on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and when Carson invited her over to the couch after her set, a rare honor, it was like a national seal of approval. Ellen had arrived, but that was only the beginning. In the years that followed, she blazed through sitcoms, stand-up specials, and TV appearances. Her charm made her a regular on late-night shows. Her smile, wide, warm, and just awkward enough to feel real, became her signature. But what truly set her apart wasn't just the jokes, it was the courage. In 1997, Ellen came out as gay, not just personally, but publicly on her own sitcom. She said the words millions were afraid to say, "I'm gay." It nearly ended her career. Sponsors pulled out, networks backed away. Hollywood turned its back, but Ellen didn't flinch. She vanished for a while, and then came back even stronger. By the early 2000s, America had softened, and Ellen returned, this time as a talk show host. The Ellen DeGeneres Show debuted in 2003 and quickly became a daytime phenomenon. She danced through the audience. She gave away vacations. She handed out cash and cars like candy. And she signed off every episode with the same 4 words: "Be kind to one another." It was more than a show. It was a brand, a movement. Ellen became the face of feel-good television, a safe place in a chaotic world. She interviewed presidents, pop stars, and everyday heroes. And in 2016, President Barack Obama awarded her the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor, for her courage, empathy, and impact. To millions, she was more than a celebrity. She was a role model, a symbol of kindness, proof that you could be both powerful and good. But there was one thing nobody knew yet. This story wasn't headed for a happy ending. At the peak of her fame, Ellen DeGeneres was untouchable. Her face was everywhere. Magazine covers, award shows, viral clips. The audience danced when she danced. They cried when she cried. She was daytime royalty. But behind the glow, something didn't feel quite right. The first signs were small. An awkward interview here. A strange celebrity reaction there. You'd see a guest laugh on cue, but their eyes said something else. Something uncomfortable. The moments would go viral. Taylor Swift squirming as Ellen joked about her dating life. Dakota Johnson subtly correcting Ellen on live TV. Even Mariah Carey forced into revealing a pregnancy before she was ready. To most viewers, these were just harmless talk show bits. But to a growing number of fans, it felt like something deeper. Ellen didn't just tease, she cornered. She didn't just joke, she jabbed. All with that same smile. Then came the tweet. It was March 2020, and the world was shutting down. People were scared, anxious, locked indoors. Then a comedian named Kevin T. Porter posted something on Twitter that would flip Ellen's public image on its head. Right now, we all need a little kindness. You know, like Ellen DeGeneres always talks about. She's also notoriously one of the meanest people alive. Respond to this with the most insane stories you've heard about Ellen being mean. The replies poured in. Thousands of them. Stories from waiters, assistants, makeup artists, fans, each more unsettling than the last. No eye contact. Bizarre rules. Firings over petty reasons. Ellen, the queen of kindness, was being painted as a cold, unreachable tyrant. At first, it seemed like internet gossip, but that was just the beginning. Soon, the whispers became headlines. BuzzFeed dropped a bombshell report. 11 former employees from The Ellen Show came forward. What they described wasn't just a demanding workplace, it was toxic. A culture of fear, racism, intimidation, and silence. People were fired for taking medical leave. Others were told not to speak to Ellen directly. One black employee said Ellen never once acknowledged them in meetings, after 3 years on staff. And that "be kind" motto? It wasn't just hollow, it was weaponized. Hedda Muscat, one of the show's original producers, finally spoke out. From day one, she said, there were unspoken rules. Don't talk to Ellen. Don't look at Ellen. Don't knock on her door. Don't speak unless spoken to. We walked on eggshells, she said, every day. It wasn't just Ellen's behavior that raised alarms. It was what she allowed. Executive producers allegedly screamed at staff in meetings. Harassment claims were ignored. When people complained, they were labeled as difficult and quietly pushed out. And Ellen, she laughed it off. One day, after an executive berated an employee in front of everyone, Hedda expected Ellen to step in. Instead, Ellen smirked and said, "Every production needs a dog." That one sentence said everything. To the public, Ellen was giving away vacations and hugging audience members. Behind the scenes, her own team was terrified to breathe too loud. Then came one of the most jaw-dropping revelations of all. A story that would go viral for all the wrong reasons. Chris Farah, a waitress in Los Angeles, was assigned to Ellen's table one afternoon. She smiled, gave great service, and thought nothing of it. A week later, she was pulled into her manager's office. Ellen had emailed the owner to complain. Not about the food, not the service, but about Chris's chipped nail polish. Chris was suspended for 2 weeks. For a woman who told millions to spread kindness, the silence in that restaurant said more than words ever could. When the world shut down in 2020, people were scared, isolated, and clinging to anything familiar. Ellen, with her warmth and humor, had always been that comfort. But instead of rising to the moment, she vanished, only to reappear somewhere no one expected, inside her $27 million California mansion. The Ellen Show resumed taping from home, except her home looked like a luxury resort. High ceilings, floor-to-ceiling glass, manicured lawns, and a private pool shimmering behind her. The first few episodes featured her joking about quarantine life. And then she said something no one could quite believe. Being in quarantine is like being in jail. Mostly because I've been wearing the same clothes for 10 days and everyone in here is gay. A joke, maybe. But in a time when millions were cramped in tiny apartments, sick, unemployed, and grieving, Ellen compared her mansion to prison. The backlash was instant. People weren't laughing anymore. They were angry. But that wasn't even the worst part. While Ellen was filming poolside in luxury, her longtime staff, many of whom had worked for her for years, were in the dark. Paychecks were delayed. Hours were slashed. Health benefits were put at risk. Some even said they were ghosted by production entirely. All while the show kept airing, and Ellen kept collecting millions. By contrast, hosts like Jimmy Kimmel and Trevor Noah made sure their staff were paid in full, even dipping into their own pockets when needed. Ellen? She stayed silent. She, who built a brand on kindness, now looked detached, cold, out of touch. And the viewers noticed. The persona began to crumble. Clips from past episodes resurfaced, and this time, people watched differently. What once looked like quirky humor now felt mean-spirited, controlling, even cruel. In one viral moment, Ellen gave her audience members the chance to take one gift from the gift shop. But one woman, maybe confused, took two. Ellen stopped the show, called her out by name, and marched her to a mock Ellen jail on stage. "Let that be a lesson to you," Ellen smiled. "You think no one's watching, but you just have to be a good person." The audience laughed. But online, people saw something else. Humiliation paraded as morality. And then came the fan stories. A teenage boy had spent weeks sculpting a clay bust of Ellen for a contest, complete with a heartfelt letter about how much she meant to him. It was never acknowledged. Instead, the bust appeared in a segment where it was used as a prop for a game, and then casually given away to an audience member with a $500 bill taped to the bottom. He wasn't thanked. He wasn't mentioned. Just a punchline. Another fan flew across the country. Her dream to sit in the Ellen Show audience finally realized. She was chosen for an on-stage segment, until a crew member pulled her aside and said flatly, "Don't talk to Ellen." She smiled through it, played along. But inside, something broke. These weren't isolated moments. They were pieces of a larger truth. Ellen's kindness was reserved for the spotlight. Behind the scenes, it was rules, fear, and control. And slowly, one story at a time, the audience realized something they never wanted to believe. They'd been lied to. Before the scandal went public, before the headlines screamed toxic, Ellen was already planning her quiet exit. After Donald Trump won the 2016 election, something shifted in Ellen. Publicly, she remained smiling and upbeat. But privately, those close to her say she felt the ground beneath her shifting. The politics, the culture, the criticism. By 2024, Ellen DeGeneres wasn't just fading from television. She was disappearing from the country entirely. After years of public backlash and the slow collapse of her image, Ellen made a move that stunned many. She quietly relocated to the UK, alongside her wife, Portia de Rossi. While rumors swirled about a temporary reset, the timing told a different story. Just days after Donald Trump secured a second term as President of the United States, Ellen made the decision permanent. She didn't post a dramatic goodbye, no press tour, no real explanation. Just one clear message in a recent interview. We're staying here. It's peaceful. It's kind. It's everything America isn't anymore. She went on to praise the UK's animal welfare standards, its quiet dignity, and how nobody makes a scene. She contrasted that with what she called the loudness and anger of modern America, adding that she no longer felt safe as a public LGBTQ figure in the US, but critics weren't convinced it was just about politics. By the time she fled, Ellen was already radioactive in Hollywood. Her brand had collapsed. Former employees still hadn't received personal apologies. Viewers had walked away. Sponsors had vanished. And so had she. What looked like political disillusionment to some felt more like a strategic retreat to others. A quiet country, a loyal partner, and no more cameras, just the soft green hills of the Cotswolds and the silence of a public who had stopped clapping. Her new beginning? Or her final escape? Maybe both. By 2021, The Ellen Show was a shadow of what it once was. Viewership had plummeted by over 1 million people. Ratings dropped nearly 40% in a single year. Even major celebrities started declining invitations. The air had changed. On screen, Ellen kept dancing, kept smiling, kept pretending everything was fine. But backstage, the empire was crumbling. Warner Media launched an investigation. 3 top producers were fired. Ellen issued a handwritten apology to staff and a public one to viewers. She claimed she hadn't known what was happening, that she'd trusted others too much, but no one bought it. Fans who once adored her now saw through the script. Her apology felt rehearsed. The tears, too late. The blame shifted to middle management. With over 250 employees, she said, it's impossible to know everything that happens. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was what she allowed to happen. The kindness she preached had become a punchline. Online, people dissected her legacy. Was she ever authentic? Or had Ellen simply built a billion-dollar brand on pretending? She tried to deny that the scandal ended her show, but the timeline told another story. The ratings, the firings, the fan rebellion, all came before her decision to walk away. And when she left, it wasn't with clarity. It was with excuses. She called it a planned exit, a natural ending. But the audience knew better. She didn't leave because it was time. She left because she had nowhere left to hide. Once, Ellen DeGeneres stood for something. She was the brave voice who came out on national television when few dared to speak. She was the quirky underdog who made America laugh, cry, and dance in its living rooms. She was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by Barack Obama, not for her fame, but for what she represented: courage, compassion, progress. But over time, that symbol turned into a shadow. Because Ellen wasn't undone by one scandal or even a single mistake. She fell because the character she created was never real. Be kind to one another became less of a mantra and more of a disguise. A phrase to sell books, push merchandise, and sign off on a brand that made her hundreds of millions, while staff cried in hallways, feared retaliation, and walked on eggshells just outside the spotlight. The truth is harsh, but simple. You can't preach kindness and run your empire on cruelty. And when the world finally saw behind the curtain, it wasn't Ellen's enemies that tore her down. It was the people who used to believe in her. Fans, staff, viewers, kids who once thought she was proof that kindness could win in the end. They didn't just stop watching. They turned away because they felt betrayed. Not because Ellen changed, but because she hadn't. She had only been hiding all along. Ellen didn't go out with a scandalous bang. She didn't storm off set. She didn't fight the accusations head-on. she simply vanished. One day, the lights went out, the cameras stopped rolling, and the woman who used to dance through the aisles? She slipped out the back door of American culture, quietly. There was no grand farewell, no reckoning, just a soft ending to a loud lie. And maybe that's the most devastating part. Because Ellen DeGeneres taught a generation that kindness was powerful, that being good mattered, that you could change the world with laughter, generosity, and honesty. But in the end, her downfall proved the opposite, that a fake smile can fool millions, that power often hides behind charm, that kindness without truth is just another performance. So now, we're left with a question, one that every fan, every viewer, every believer in Be Kind must ask themselves. Are you truly kind? If your kindness disappears the moment no one's watching, and in a world obsessed with image, where we craft personas for followers, likes, and applause, when the cameras turn off, who are you, really?